everybody, good morning. It is Thursday and we are live on the coffee run. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching the replay. Super excited to host you. So really interesting, 10 minutes ago, I'm sitting here going like, oh my God, what the heck am I going to talk about this morning? Good morning, Ainsley. So usually Thursday is a how-to day, right? So what that means is that we're normally going through, well, this is what you need to do, this is how you need to do it. And this morning I'm just like, I really don't know what I'm going to talk about. So the backstory to that is that we had a bit of an adventure yesterday whereby you may have seen the photos. Good morning, Kelly. I was crawling underneath our house that's got maybe like a 30 centimeter clearance underneath the house, and I climbed underneath there rescuing four little kittens actually, and a mama cat. And oh my gosh, it was so, like, it blew out my whole entire day, right? Blew my whole entire day out. So this morning has been, right, make sure the kittens are okay, make sure the cat's okay, see what I need to do some research on lactating cat mums, and what we need to do to make sure that these animals are really looked after moving forward and not destroyed or anything like that by the pound and yada yada yada. So my brain has been all in that. Oh, thanks Ainsley, thanks Kelly. It's really just like this morning I'm like, okay, great, I've got all of these things to do and I wonder how these little kittens are going. So forgive me for not being quite as prepared as I maybe normally am with what it is that we're going to step you through in terms of how to do something. So as I said, I was thinking 10 minutes ago, what the heck am I going to talk about today? So here's the thing. I'm sure that there are things going on in your world and in your life that you can start to talk about. Whether it's specifically related to what it is that you do, right? Or whether it's just, it might be in relation to something else that's going on in your world. So what I found really interesting yesterday was my daughter rang me while I was out. She said, Mom, there's some kittens stuck under the house. We need to rescue them. And I'm like, yeah, okay, fair enough, right? Get there, realize whereabouts in the house that they're actually stuck. Good morning, Kate. I was like, oh my God, if I go crawling underneath that house, what about the spiders? What if the cat, like the mama cat, gets all protective and starts to swipe me? And I had a really big brain block with how I was going to get under the house. So I was all ready. I was like, okay, great. I ran into the house. I got in my, I looked like a cat burglar. Kind of pun intended. I had my black pants on. You guys have seen the photos, right? Black long leggings, socks tucked into them, them tucked into my socks, my long black sleeve on because I had to go crawling, literally commando crawling type thing underneath the house. Dom would have been too big to get under there even if he was home. And Tiana was just like, what if the cat attacks me? And this, that, and the other. So what I thought was really interesting is I had the little torch out and I'm examining underneath there for dangers and potential mishaps, and I had my escape route plan and this, that, and the other. Had a stick to try and push the cats in the way that I wanted them to go, and this, that, and the other. What I thought was really interesting was that I built up this whole, there was a lot of perceived fear, right? I was like, oh my gosh, what if I get stuck? Oh my gosh, what if the cat attacks me? Oh my God, what if I get in there and then I can't come out? My husband did some caving before, it was really early on in our relationship. He was over in Canada and he got stuck in a cave, and he was telling me about how much he freaked out because he couldn't move and he couldn't go forward, he couldn't go back, and started to get claustrophobic and started to panic. So in my head, before getting underneath the house, I was kind of like, oh my God, what if I get stuck? What if I can't move? What if I panic? This, that, and the other. So I built it. I just had to put that phone on charge, otherwise I ran out of steam. Sorry about that, everyone. So, oh look, we're wonky. That's really awesome. Okay. Come on, phone. There we go. Don't anybody move, right? Keep really still and hopefully the phone will stay put the way that it is. So I built up this big catastrophe in my head, right, before going and climbing under the house. And I think that this is really interesting because I know that when it comes to business, we can build up this big catastrophe thing in our head about what might happen. I don't know about you, but I'm like, oh, but then what if this and what if this and what if this? And I'm trying to mitigate the risks, right? So, you know, I was just like, oh my God, at the end of the day, just get on out. It's okay. If the cat attacks me, I'll just go get a freaking tetanus shot or whatever. And if I get bitten by a spider, I'm not going to die straight away. It'll be okay. You know, these poor little kittens that were kind of like huddled into the corner were more important than my fear. So obviously if you've seen the photos, I got under there, rescued the cats. They're currently living in our laundry, looking after this lactating mother while we work out how we're going to do what we're going to do. So I decided this morning that, like, just as I started speaking this morning, it's like, well, you know, if you're ever stuck for things to say, have a look at what's gone on in your world in the last 24 hours and how it might relate to what you're doing, right? Now, I know for me, walking into a room of people that I don't know, when it's not my event's a different story, but if I'm an attendee, walking into a room, I have that same sense of, it's like it creates a whole bunch of anxiety for me, right? It's exactly the same as me crawling under the house. It's exactly the same as me going, well, you know, what if they do this and what if they do this? And I've got to mitigate the risks and rather than sometimes just biting the bullet, because often it's never as bad in reality as what we make it out to be in our heads about what may or may not happen. So have a look at what you've gone through in the last 24 hours. Is there metaphors that you can share and stories that you can share and tell in your world that relate to what it is that you're doing? So Cal, you know, something for you might be that, you know, if we use drawing upon the cat story, it's like trying to do something different, learning how. I've never had cats as an adult, right? So for me, this whole learning how to look after a cat, let alone, you know, a cat with kittens and 4 of them, you know, there's all of that. So I've done all the research and I've done all the things. You know, for you, you're helping your women create new habits. And that can feel really scary. It can feel really big. It can be, well, what about this? What about this? We've got Christmas coming. You know, all of these perceived threats in your world, right? For Kate, you're helping your people not move through grief. And that can be sometimes embracing that and moving forward and sometimes sitting in it. Now, guys, it took me like 90 minutes of speculating, toing and froing, going and looking at the cats, coming back over here, then going back again, and then looking, and Tiana's like, my oldest daughter, she's like, oh my God, there's another one. And it took 90 minutes for me to essentially work up the courage to even get under the house and do what needed to be done. So I'm sure that if you look at that, which is a completely different situation to marketing and content creation and business, but the way that it's a metaphor, right? Because the way we do anything is the way we do everything. So I'm generally like, I'm the kind of person that if I was standing on a diving board ready to jump, I'd be like, I'd probably walk back and then I'd look over, I'm like, no, I can do this, and then go back and then go, oh, no, I can do this, and then go back, and then I'm like, okay, no, I really have to freaking do this. I'll be better off for it. And then I leap. You know, I tend to do that forward, back. Okay, just, fuck it, this is ridiculous. Get over your own self, Nicola, and go, right? So bang. So if you look at what are the things that have gone on in your world recently, if you feel like you're stuck for content, what's gone on in your world recently that you can draw upon and use to talk about a concept that you are passionate about, right? And because I'm all about feel the fear and do it anyway. So it was kind of really interesting, this thing that happened yesterday. So that's a couple of ways that you can come up with ideas for content. Another way that you can do it is to map it all out. And, you know, I've talked about the content maps recently, and I filled mine out yesterday. So it's for 2019. They're not dated, but I've got to get that back up on my wall. And then I'm like, well, if nothing particularly exciting has happened in my world in the last 24 hours, you know, there's not always a cat rescue going on, then what can I draw upon that's in the structure to be able to demonstrate a point? So this is where you've got to have really confidence in your ability to come up with things, right? It's where you need to trust yourself that you have got more than enough to talk about, that you've got more than enough to share, and you are wicked smart, right? I know you are. And I know that you've got things that have gone on that you can then draw upon and use as a metaphor, whether it's about your children, whether it's about your clients, whether it's about what maybe you've seen something in a Facebook news feed that's like, oh my God, you know, that really fires me up. Oh yeah, I really believe in that. Kate said, I always look at the news. There's heaps of stuff on there. Yes. Yeah, if that's what you do, that's a great idea. I don't personally look at the news because I haven't watched the news or looked at the news. I have no idea what's going on in the world. If it's not on Facebook, it's not happened, because I like living in my bubble. We did a news detox maybe about 5 years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I think. So, but yeah, that's a really great source of things to probably, for me, it would fire me up. Kelly, let's see if I can see more of your comment. Oh man, this is really irritating. I don't know why it does this. I have a question about the content. Does it matter if you reuse topics, or is it best to have it all different? I can't see if there's more underneath there for some reason. Great question. Reuse topics. You know, you might just think of different ways to talk about it, right? So, like I talk about confidence all the time. I talk about content creation all the time. But I guess it's like this today, it just so happened that we've got the cat story that I could draw upon to as an idea or as an example of a way that you can use something that's gone on in the last 24 hours to create content, right? I mean, I talk about the content map all the time. I talk about my book, Visible, all of the time. So, you know, there's like all of these concepts that we talk about all tie into, they kind of like interlink and intermingle with each other. The great thing about reusing a topic is that you'll think of different ways to explain what it is that you're talking about, but it also means that you're incredibly consistent across the board with the messaging that you're doing. I trust that makes sense. Helena, I live in a bubble too. People usually make comments about stuff and I usually look at them blank. Yeah, same. You know, if there's something that I need to know, someone will tell me that I need to go and look at something, or I need to go and watch something. You know, that's just what I do. I remember having a conversation with a family member and they said, you've got no idea what's going on out there in the real world. And I'm like, you know what? I'm really freaking glad, because a lot of what gets propagated out there is a whole bunch of fear and limitation and lack and scarcity. And I'm just like, ain't nobody got time for that. All right. Kelly, thank you. I thought if I reuse some of the topics, I'll grow with them. Yeah, that's right. I mean, you're always constantly working and growing and learning and expanding and things like that. So the way that you may have explained how to deal with fear or creating a new habit a month ago might be different today, right? So it's really, and you might have different things that pop into your brain that you're like, oh yeah, I can really draw upon that. And the other thing with that is that different people will hear different things and get different lessons and have different layers in their learning and their understanding of what it is that you're talking about all the time as well. Good morning, Beck. So, this this fear, new habit, maybe conversation type thing. Somebody might relate, go, oh yeah, that's exactly like going to the gym. Someone else might be like, oh yeah, that's exactly like quitting sugar. Somebody else might be like, oh yeah, that's exactly about I try and drink more water and blah, 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 blah. So different people will respond and connect with different ways of you explaining and articulating what it is that you do and how it is that you talk about it, right? Hence articulation. Love the layers. Yes. Yeah, and Kate, you're right. It's about drawing upon the tools that work for you, right? You're exactly right. And there's absolutely zero judgment here. It's just a choice that I chose to make. And you've got to draw upon and look for inspiration all around you. So you might find something in a book that sparks a conversation in your head. You might find an article that sparks something. You might play a sport or do a hobby where you notice a pattern starting to play out that you can then draw upon and use in your delivery, right? So we've got all of these things going on around us all of the time. So it's just about you kind of thinking a little bit differently to, oh, I've got to go create some content, or I've got to write an article. How should I write about this business thing that I need to talk about? It's making really sure, good English, Nicola. It's making sure that you're being aware of the stuff that's going on around you that you can use in order to demonstrate the points that you're trying to make, right? And connect with your audience. So I trust that's helpful for you. We're celebrating tomorrow. Yay! Celebrating tomorrow. I'm running an event tomorrow and Saturday, so I'm going to play it by ear. We may or may not go live, and if we do, we might do it a little bit earlier. So 8:30 Melbourne time if we go live, which is 7:30 in Queensland or 8 a.m. in Adelaide. In the States, it's still the afternoon for you guys. In the UK, it's still nighttime. So not much is going to change. So we'll go live. Have your celebrations ready. I'd really love to cheer you guys on. It really rocks my world to hear how you are changing your world. So let me cheer you on. Let me be your cheer squad. All right, have a really great day, everyone. I'm going to go and buy some new post tubes to send out these content maps because the ones that I bought don't fit anything. It's really irritating. So I've got some of those to send off today. Super excited to get those into the hot little hands of the people like you guys who have bought them. Thank you so much. And then I'm going to do some working out, and then I'm going to get some emails ready for promoting Visible Live that's happening in May and August next year. So take care, everyone. Have a really great and amazing day. I look forward to speaking to you tomorrow. Get visible, get out there and help some people, and most of all, have fun doing it. All right, I'll talk to you all tomorrow. Bye.